Want help to grow your business? Download BRiN, the world's first business advisor in your pocket. To find out more, visit BRiN.ai or search the App Store today.
My special guest today is business advisor and international expansion expert, Campbell MacKintosh. And our topic for this conversation is how to successfully expand your business into Asia. Campbell, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Dale. Great opportunity. Thanks very much.
Now, when did you first discover what we'll call the Asian opportunity?
Okay, well, it was back in the early 90s, about 1992. I had the opportunity to move to Asia and work in Asia with the corporate that I was working with.
Okay, so you first went there, you're working for this corporate.
Yep.
What was your experience like? And, I'm guessing, you would have felt a little bit uncomfortable in the kind of beginning. Everything's different, the sights, the sounds, the smells, how people do business. What was the experience like?
Well, it was a real eye-opener, something that I'd never experienced before because, in fact, I actually went to around about 15 different countries over about an 18-month period because we had many businesses in different countries. So that was an absolute culture shock, to be honest. Every country being a little bit different and really understanding what was going on in those countries. It was very eye-opening, yes. Okay,
and then you also decided to move there as well. Do you want to quickly just explain what it was like to then live there and work there?
Okay, well in 1993 we actually moved to Indonesia, and back in 1993 Indonesia was a very powerful economy, and it was probably the China of Asia at that stage, back in those days. So yes, we moved to Indonesia for 5 years, worked over there, took the family over, young family, and worked over there, two places, Jakarta and Medan.
Okay, so what we didn't talk about in this interview is how you can expand your business, even if it's a small to medium-sized business, into the Asian region.
Sure.
Now, I want to first of all establish the reason as to why, say, a local business would want to do this. Why would you want to expand into Asia? What are the benefits?
Well, I think the benefits is it's such a large market. So if you're looking to expand your business and grow it exponentially, generally your local market has some limitations, and Asia offers unbelievable opportunities with its size to really grow that business exponentially. So that's probably the primary reason.
And what is the size that we're talking about?
Asia is a very, very big place. There's over 3 billion people, so it depends on
So it's like 3 billion people?
Yeah, 3 billion people, yes.
So if the UK has about 60, Germany has about 80 million, Australia has about 25, America has 330 million. So we're talking about 3 billion people?
Yes, over the Asia-wide greatest part of it, yes. So, there's obviously massive opportunity, but I suppose the thing about it is that you have to pick your target. You have to be very specific about what country you want to target.
We'll definitely talk more about that, but let's talk about other reasons. So one is the market size.
Yep, so it's the market size.
3 billion people. What else?
So the other opportunity to do is to build some relationships in Asia, because not only you might want to export there or put a business there, but you might want to import some products, or you might want to set up some connections with Asia, which might be important for your business going forward, growing it internationally. So that's another very strong reason that you'd want to do it. The other reason is that there are some massive growth opportunities in particular niches that might suit your product line. So it might be a product or service line. So it might be something specific you're doing in your home country that you can do in one of those other countries. So that's also another reason why I'd have a look at doing that.
Okay, fantastic. And just before we continue, is the Asian culture quite entrepreneurial in nature?
It is generally, as a rule, yes. Yes, it is very entrepreneurial. The Chinese particularly.
So people are looking for opportunities, right?
Absolutely, and they're looking for partners. They're looking for opportunities where they can make some money and they can leverage off people that know what they're doing. They will want to talk to you, yes. So they do want to do business.
All right, so let's talk about some other benefits. What else?
Well, some other benefits that I think that I always look at is the fact that you can I suppose, gain some respect for your brands and your products internationally. If you can get them into Asia, and you can then leverage off that to actually get into some other markets, and also leverage the opportunity you have in your local market as well. Asians are very brand conscious, and they want the best brand, and they do want the best quality. They want the best quality at the best price. So if you can do that, then you can actually leverage your business in the local markets as well.
Okay, anything else before we move on?
That's probably about summarises it, yeah.
All right, fantastic. So when it comes to Asia, and expanding your business there. Asia, I don't know off the top of my head, but it's made up by a lot of different countries in Asia. A lot of them are small ones as well. Do you think about it as one kind of big region, or do you actually just pick certain countries within Asia? What's the best approach?
Well, the worst thing you can do is think about Asia as one big country or one big region. You have to look at each individual country, and you have to target each individual country because they're all different.
So explain that to us and why that people make that mistake of just treating it like a big market.
Well, I've seen this happen before where a company will have, or a corporate company will have an Asian direction or an Asian business model, and then they'll want to roll that out in every country they go to in Asia. Now, sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. My experience is it doesn't work all the time, that you might have to fine-tune things a little bit in each specific country that you're going to. So, for instance, Indonesia, you will have to have a different strategy for if you're doing business in Java, for instance, the island of Java where Jakarta is, versus doing something in Sumatra where the capital city of Medan is.
All right, wait a second. So now we're talking about regions within a country.
Yes.
So first of all, to establish countries, so you're saying Indonesia would be very different to, say, Japan, for example.
Oh, absolutely.
And very different to maybe
China.
And even like a Middle East, because that's part of Asia. So if you were going into, say, a country like Lebanon, again, it's all very different.
It's very different, and the key to really doing is you've got to do your market research before you go. You've got to go in and you've got to understand those markets and understand what's going on.
How do you decide then of the 50 countries that are there, which ones we're actually going to target?
That's a $64 question. I suppose
$64 million question.
$64 million question. I suppose the key thing there is it depends on what stage your business is at. If you've already done business in Asia and you have relationships there, naturally then you will try and leverage off those countries you've done. For instance, if you haven't done business in Asia, my strong advice is that you look at countries that have some sort of Western culture to it, some business practices. Countries like Singapore, Hong Kong, Malaysia, where there's been the British influence through their history. Those countries are generally a little bit easier to do business with. But if you've done those countries or you want to get quite aggressive, then you would have a look at China or India or Indonesia.
Or the Philippines.
Or the Philippines, yeah. Those countries are quite different. They're very Asian, if I can call it that way. Their laws are quite local and they're difficult to understand and interpret. So, that's a real challenge going into those markets.
Okay, so the ones that have more of a Western influence, Singapore, Malaysia, and the other one you mentioned, which was Singapore, Malaysia,
yeah.
Hong Kong.
Hong Kong, that's it, sorry.
Hong Kong. Okay, so that's where we kind of start. Obviously, there's smaller markets in compared to the bigger populations, but a great place to start.
Yeah, you can test yourself there. You can start to learn a bit about the culture, the different ways of doing business in Asia in a reasonably safe environment or a reasonably familiar environment before you then venture into some of those other countries where it's quite different.
And the big populations over there, obviously we hear a lot about China and India, but then we also have Indonesia and the Philippines, which are also massive markets as well. Also Japan too.
Yes. No, those markets are big. For instance, Indonesia has a population of 260 million people. It's the fourth biggest population country in the world. So that's a massive market. But again, it's a complex market. It's made up of 20 different islands with all different sort of cultures and so forth. But huge population, yeah.
All right, so you've already said that one of the biggest mistakes that people make is treating Asia as one big market. So you said there's individual countries within that. And then you also started to make the point as well that even there are certain regions within countries and they also can be different. Do you have an example of that?
Well, I hate to focus on Indonesia, but that's where I spent some time. But basically, if I took, for an example, the island of Java, which is the most populated island of Indonesia, where Jakarta is and Surabaya, and I compared that with Sumatra, which is up to the northwest of Java. Basically, the Java island is dominated by Bumi Indonesians. So they're the local Bumi people. Whereas up in Sumatra, there's quite a mixture of Bumi Indonesians and also Chinese and Indian who have influenced the way business is done and some of the cultural practices. So if you are doing business in Java and you are doing business in Sumatra, it is quite different. And unless you've sort of been there and experienced it, you don't really see it on the surface. But as you've been there and you've worked there, and as I did set up a business, and it is very obvious the differences. Java is not exactly easy. It's a lot of...
To continue enjoying this presentation, download BRiN, the world's first business advisor in your pocket. To find out more, visit BRiN.ai. or search the App Store today.